The emergency ward of the intergalactic hospital hummed with activity. The usual chaos was present, a blur of alien species and flashing monitors, the sound of footsteps echoing against the cold steel floors. Nurses darted between rooms, pulling up data streams and adjusting medical equipment in a seamless dance of precision. But today, there was something different, something rare. A human walked beside a stretcher carrying an injured Krogan. The human's face was tight with concern, his brow furrowed as he gently adjusted the stretcher's course, making sure it didn't jolt too much. He wasn't panicked, but there was a hint of worry in his eyes, something that felt out of place for a species that had quickly established itself as a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. Krogans were not the type to fall easily, and when they did, it was a rare sight. Their thick hide was a natural armor, their bodies built for war, their armies notorious for their brute strength and unwavering discipline. Yet, here one was, injured, vulnerable. And this human, walking beside him like some kind of protector, was only adding to the surreal nature of the scene. Two resident doctors, both still in training, stood at a distance, their eyes wide with curiosity. They had never seen a human up close before, and this one was no ordinary human. He wasn't armored, wasn't clutching any high-tech weapon. He wasn't surrounded by the typical aura of an armed soldier or diplomat. No, this human was simply walking beside the Krogan, showing a kind of strange, understated concern. One of the doctors, a slender blue-skinned Zorvian, leaned closer to the other, lowering his voice. That must have been some kind of vehicle accident, right? Maybe a cargo hauler didn't see him, or some high-speed transit clipped him. Look at the way his nose is crushed, definitely a hit and run. The other doctor, a tall and spindly Tyleran, nodded slowly, his eyes still fixed on the stretcher. Makes sense. I mean, what else could do that to a Krogan? Maybe the human hit him by mistake, or maybe he just found him like that and brought him in. The Zorvian tilted his head, watching the human walk silently beside the stretcher. He does look a little worried. Could be guilt. Or maybe just some civilian who found the Krogan and brought him here. They both exchanged looks of quiet fascination, their minds racing. Still, the Zorvian murmured, I can't believe a Krogan was injured like that. You know what they say, Krogans are like walking tanks. They are, the Tyleran replied. I studied their anatomy last cycle. Multiple redundant organs, hyperdense bone structure, regenerative tissues. They were engineered by centuries of evolution and warfare. Some of them go their entire lives without needing a doctor. The Zorvian gave a small whistle. I read about a Krogan who fought a wild Zalathi bull bare-handed on Junar-Lan, took 3 hoinks to the gut and still ripped the beast's throat out with his bare hands. The Tyleran chuckled. Yeah, I heard that story. They called him Brawkan, the Beastlayer. His hide was so scarred they said you couldn't tell where the wounds ended and the armor began. The Zorvian nodded thoughtfully. And then there's the famed Krogan warrior rite, the highest honor a Krogan can offer, reserved only for those they see as equals. It's not about battle or blood. It's about recognition, a sacred tradition passed through generations. To be offered the rite is to be marked, not as prey, not as rival, but as kin. And for over centuries, no species beyond their own has been judged worthy of such an honor. And look at this one, the Zorvian said, motioning toward the stretcher. Even unconscious, you can tell he's a warrior. The way his muscles are tensed, the disciplines carved into them. That's not just strength, it's training. Centuries of it. The Tyleran glanced back at the human. So how does that guy fit into all this? Soft-skinned, no claws, no armor. And yet here he is, standing beside the tank like he belongs. The Zorvian glanced at the human again, narrowing his eyes. Do you think they're the same species? The humans, I mean. There's so much we still don't know about them. They've appeared out of nowhere in the galactic scene, and they've already established themselves as the dominant force in weapons technology. The Tyleran nodded. You're right. The arms race. No one else has advanced weaponry like they do. Despite being a new species, they've somehow surpassed everyone. They don't just rely on brute force. They understand strategy, tactics. The Zorvian scoffed softly, the thought of it irritating him. But they're physically weak, aren't they? Soft-skinned. No armor, no natural defenses. If this was the old days, humans wouldn't even survive a day on the battlefield. They'd be running for their lives, wouldn't they? The Tyran paused for a moment, considering. You're right, in a way. But we've underestimated them. There's something more to them. The stories say they never back down, and they fight with their minds. They're different. The Zorvian leaned back, slightly thoughtful. Yes, because brain is stronger than brawn. The conversation lingered in the air, heavy with the realization that despite their physical fragility, humans had something far more dangerous at their core, an intelligence and drive that could rival any species. Once their duties were complete and the Krogan had been stabilized in recovery, the two trainee doctors exchanged glances. Curiosity, more than courtesy, drew them back toward the human who still stood quietly by the wall, arms folded, gaze calm. The Zorvian offered a small, practiced smile. We just wanted to inform you, the Krogan's stable. He'll be fine. A few fractured bones, some bruising, and a broken nose. Nothing life-threatening. The human nodded, his expression softening. That's good to hear. The Teal'ran tilted his head slightly, keeping his tone light, almost casual. We were just wondering, do you happen to know what happened? Was it a collision of some kind? Did you see who was driving the vehicle? The question hung there, framed in politeness, but brimming with quiet assumption. The human blinked once, then shrugged as if answering a question about the weather. Nah, I beat him. There was a pause, just long enough to feel awkward. Then both doctors laughed, not mockingly, just lightly, awkwardly. The kind of laugh people give when they're not quite sure how else to respond. The human glanced between them, a bit confused, but smiled and laughed along anyway. After all, among many reputations the humans had rapidly earned across the stars, fierce soldiers, brilliant strategists, masters of technology, they were perhaps most known for their humor, the ability to make light of even the darkest moments. It confused some, irritated others, but it always left an impression. Well, the human said, his voice easy, almost cheerful, thanks for patching him up. And with that, he turned and walked away, hands in his pockets, whistling some earth tune none of them recognized. They really do have a strange sense of humor, the Zorvian muttered. Yeah, the Teal'ran agreed, strange and kind of terrifying. As the human disappeared around the corridor, his easy whistle echoing behind him, the two trainee doctors stood in a thoughtful silence. The moment lingered, peculiar, unsettling. Then behind them a low groan. The Krogan stirred. The Zorvian turned sharply, just as the warrior's thick fingers gripped the edge of the stretcher. His eyes blinked open, glassy but focused. Where am I? He growled, voice hoarse but unmistakably lucid. You're in the trauma ward, the Teal'ran said quickly, stepping forward. A human brought you in. You were unconscious. The Krogan blinked once. A human? He tried to rise, grimacing as pain radiated through his frame. Fractures, dislocated joints, a broken nose, but none of it seemed to matter. Where is he? He demanded. The Zorvian glanced toward the corridor. He just left. Might still be waiting for a transport outside. But before he could finish, the Krogan was already moving. With a pained grunt, the massive warrior pushed himself off the stretcher. Bones creaked. Bandages tore. One leg faltered beneath him, but held. Wait, the doctors called out in unison. But the Krogan was already limping. No, charging, down the hallway. The two hurried to the viewing window overlooking the hospital's sky lot below. Only one conclusion echoing in both their minds. It was the human's vehicle that hit him. It was the only thing that made sense. The concern, the casual admission, the light-hearted tone, classic guilt cover-up. They pressed up to the glass, expecting to see the human standing beside a dented transport or pacing nervously, maybe trying to call legal counsel. Instead, they saw him standing beneath the pale glow of the orbital lights. The human leaned casually against a support beam. One hand was in his pocket. The other held some sort of snack bar he nibbled at, unbothered, as if he were just waiting for a bus. Then the doors burst open. The Krogan limped out, bloody, stiff, barely healed, but every step screamed purpose. His massive frame moved like a wounded tank, slow but unstoppable. Despite the obvious pain, there was no hesitation. The Zorvian gasped. He's going after him. He's going to crush him. Even injured, a Krogan was a terrifying force. The doctors knew it. Everyone knew it. One arm in a sling, cracked ribs, bruised organs. And still, if that Krogan decided to charge, he'd turn the fragile human into paste with a single blow. The Teal'ran leaned in, already wincing. Should we call security? He'll kill him. But the Krogan didn't attack. He stopped just a few steps away from the human, stood tall, straightened his posture despite the searing pain in his side. And then, with a grim solemnity, he pounded a fist against his chest, dropped to one knee, extended a clawed hand in a downward arc and bowed his head low. The Zorvian's eyes widened. His breath caught in his throat. "No, that can't be." "What is he doing?" the Teal'ran asked, squinting. The Zorvian didn't answer right away. His mind was scrambling to categorize what he had just seen, something usually spoken of in hushed tones in xenocultural archives. "That was a rite," he finally whispered. "You mean the rite?" The warrior's vow, the kind only performed once in a lifetime, when a Krogan acknowledges someone who bested them in single combat and earned their respect. Not just respect, bond. From that point on, the victor is considered a blood equal, sometimes even a battle kin. The Teal'ran's breath caught in his throat. "That means..." The Zorvian completed the sentence. The human wasn't joking. His eyes stayed fixed on the scene below. The human's posture shifted, shoulders squaring, head dipping slightly in acknowledgement. There was a gravity in the way he stepped forward, not as a conqueror, but as an equal, recognizing an ancient code. He gave a nod, slow, deliberate. One hand rested briefly over his chest, mimicking the start of a salute from his own culture, and though the gesture was unfamiliar to the Krogan, it was clearly one of respect. The two exchanged a few words, short, direct. The Krogan spoke first, still kneeling, his deep voice likely gravely even through pain. The human listened without interruption, then replied with something that made the Krogan rise to his feet with effort, pride in his stance. There was no handshake, no dramatic gesture, just a mutual, wordless understanding that passed between two warriors. Then the human turned as his transport pulled up, an unassuming civilian vehicle. He offered one last glance back, not with arrogance, but with the kind of look shared by those who'd met in the crucible of combat, even if just for a moment. And then he stepped aboard, the doors hissing shut behind him. The Krogan remained behind, still standing in the quiet glow of the skylot, and up in the window, two young doctors stood frozen in the weight of a realization far too large to put into words. "I think we just witnessed history," the Teal'ran whispered. After the human had left, the Krogan made his way back to his ward, still feeling the weight of the unexpected encounter. He moved slowly, his steps heavy with the pain of his injuries, but there was a certain pride in the way he walked. When he entered the room, the two doctors were waiting for him, their eyes full of curiosity. The Zorvian was the first to speak, his voice tentative but filled with genuine interest. "Why did you give him the right?" he asked. "The human. The right of the warriors. It's something only Krogan give to their own." The Teal'ran, standing beside him, nodded in agreement. "We've never seen it done before, to anyone outside your kind. Why him?" The Krogan didn't answer immediately. He stood there for a long moment, staring out the window. His mind drifted back to the moment, to the human soldier who had stood before him, unafraid, ready to face him. Finally he spoke, his voice low but steady. "Because he earned it." A beat of silence passed, heavy with intrigue. Then the Krogan slowly turned to face the two doctors. His scars caught the light, his expression unreadable. "Do you want to know how he earned it?" The Zorvian leaned forward, his eyes wide. "Yes," he said, barely containing his excitement. The Teal'ran nodded eagerly. "Please, we want to hear everything." The Krogan's eyes darkened, not with fear, but with reverence. He settled into the nearest seat, every movement laced with memory. "Then sit down," he rumbled, "because this isn't just a tale of a fight. This is the story of how everything I believed was broken by something I never saw coming. We Krogans are born for war. It's in our blood, the way we blink and breathe. Our lullabies are gunfire. Our sports leave bruises that last months. I've led squads through hell worlds, eaten things that eat other things, and stared down battle mechs with nothing but my fists. I've earned every scar, every rank, every command. So when I heard the human was stationed on the same post, just a drill instructor, someone named Callahan, not even command, I was curious. These humans, they were the talk of the galaxy. Uplifted fast, moved faster. Made their way into the arms race like they'd been there all along. Other species either envied them or whispered rumors about cybernetic cheats, genetic tinkering, or some shady Terran advantage. I had a simpler theory. They were cowards, Fragile cowards, overcompensating for their weaknesses with weapons and machines. What they lacked in bone density and muscle mass, they made up for with over-designed armor and tactical overkill. I thought I knew that if you stripped away the tech, all you had left was a scared little thing in a uniform. So when I crossed paths with him, I saw my chance. He was alone, leaning against a lamppost outside the academy, chewing something. A square-jawed male with a lazy posture and a calmness I found insulting. He didn't flinch when I approached, didn't stand to attention, just looked at me like he was watching clouds roll in. Not fear, not awe, just stillness. I stopped in front of him, looming. I made sure my shadow fell over him like a threat. "You're one of them," I said. He raised a brow. "One of what?" "Humans. The tech-hiding, gear-hugging, trigger-happy new bloods. You lot make a big noise for species so soft. If we stripped that armor, took away your toys, what's left?" He didn't argue, didn't rise to the bait, just gave a small, lopsided smile and kept chewing, calm as ever. I stepped closer, nostrils flaring. "You don't belong on the same battlefield as us. You're tourists with rifles." Still, nothing. Just the same relaxed stare. He looked me in the eye, unblinking. It unnerved me more than I care to admit. So I escalated. I insulted him, mocked his species, called him synthetic, asked him how it felt to hide behind steel and drones. I could feel others pausing nearby, pretending not to listen, but they weren't just curious. They were frozen, silent. Not because of the human, but because of me. They knew who I was, what a Krogan is capable of. The younger ones stiffened mid-step. A few dared not even breathe too loudly. No one interrupts a Krogan when he is angry. And I was angry. I didn't care. This was for me. I needed to expose him. And still, he stayed calm, until I crossed the line. I don't remember the exact words. Something about humans being born prey, about the only time they stood tall was when they stood on the bones of better warriors. I saw his jaw tighten then. His chewing stopped, his posture straightened by 1/2 degree. He tossed the gum away with deliberate slowness. Then he looked up at me, really looked up, and said, "You done? Good. Now I won't feel bad about rearranging your face." The moment he spoke that line, something shifted. Not in the air, in me. I was expecting a bark, maybe a retreat, or one of those overly formal Terran speeches about rules of engagement. What I got instead was just that one sentence, quiet and casual, and in the next second, we were moving. He didn't throw the first punch. No, he moved, like he was stepping into a rhythm only he could hear. Feet light, body loose, hands half raised. It wasn't the stance of someone who'd studied war, it was the stance of someone who'd lived it. And that grin, that half-tilted smirk like he was both annoyed and entertained, that should have warned me. I charged. It was instinct, pride, and anger all tangled into motion. I had 300 pounds on him. Easy. Should have crushed him like scrap. He wasn't there. I hit air. Turned too slow. He was already at my flank, hands down, not even striking, just watching, studying. I swung again, a heavy backhand. He ducked low, pivoted around me like liquid shadow. Still not hitting, just watching. It pissed me off. "You gonna fight or dance?" I growled. He didn't answer, just stepped back and circled again. He was learning me, every move, every twitch. Like a predator not yet hungry, just amused by the chase. So I changed tactics. No more wide swings. I closed the gap, slammed forward with a shoulder meant to shatter walls. He dodged again, barely, and his elbow clipped my ribs. Light, a test shot. It still stung. That was the first time I realized it was not going to be that easy. I roared, spun, tried to grab him. He dropped low again, so fast it was like gravity favored him, and swept my leg. I didn't fall, but I staggered, just a breath. He followed up, a quick jab to my side, then another, and another. They weren't heavy hits. Not yet. But they were smart, surgical, targeting spots I didn't even know were vulnerable. I was on an operating table and he was dissecting me. I backed up to reset, breathing harder. That grin of his was gone now, replaced by focus. Still no rage, still no panic, just relentless control. "You done posturing?" he asked, circling. I didn't answer. Couldn't. I surged forward again, fists like meteor hammers. I forced him back, cornered him near the bulkhead, and just as I committed to a finishing blow, he dropped flat onto his back. I blinked, confused, and he kicked upward, both feet into my chest, using my momentum against me. I flew. Not far, but far enough. Hit the deck hard. Groaned. My vision pulsed. I got up, snarling. My shoulder ached, my pride roared louder. He was already back on his feet, adjusting his stance, breathing steady. It wasn't a lucky move, it was strategy. I looked around. Every set of eyes was locked on us, wide, unblinking, stunned. Even the ones pretending not to watch had frozen mid-step, half-turned, jaws slack. Even the children, every last one of them, stood frozen. I saw disbelief on their faces. A human had just dropped a Krogan, me, and they'd seen it with their own eyes. No tech, no tricks, just raw, practiced motion. And this human hadn't even gone all in. He was fighting like he still had more, like this was him holding back. And that was the part that made my blood run hot. He had made them forget who I was, and worse, he was making them wonder what else humans were capable of. I charged again. This time I tried to fake him, feint left, strike right. He didn't fall for it, slipped behind me like he belonged in my blind spot. And then his first real hit, a strike to the base of my spine. Not bone-breaking, but nerve-jolting. My leg buckled for a second. He used that, jumped up, wrapped his arm around my neck from behind, twisted just enough to off-balance me again. I staggered backward, slamming into the wall, but he let go just in time. The bastard was turning my own strength into a weakness. He wanted me to come at him wild, uncontrolled. I tried something desperate. I feigned exhaustion, let my arms fall, shoulders sag, waited until he stepped forward, then spun with all my force and landed a back fist. I hit him, a clean, bone-shaking strike right to the jaw. The impact rattled his skull, his body jolting with the force, and a small spatter of blood shot from his mouth as my fist connected. But his feet held firm. He didn't just stagger. His whole body rocked back like a tree struck by a battering ram, but he didn't fall. Instead, he wiped the blood from his lip, nodded slowly. That nod he gave me, it wasn't approval. It was permission. Permission for himself to stop holding back. And then came for me like a storm. He surged forward, a blur of movement, faster than I expected from a species that looked so fragile. I raised my arms to defend, but he wasn't aiming high. His fist slammed into my gut. Not a showy punch, no flair, just pure technique, right below my ribs, with perfect timing as I inhaled. It stole the air from my lungs and sent a spike of pressure into my chest. Before I could recover, his elbow followed, right into the side of my neck. Then a downward strike onto my collarbone that sent fire through my nerves. He was chaining his strikes. Not for brute damage, but to destabilize, control, disable. I swung wildly, furious. He ducked, shifted his weight to the side and landed a low kick to the inside of my knee. I roared, stumbled, and as I tried to rebalance, he used my own weight against me, again. He stepped into me, not away, not around, into. Twisted his torso, hooked my arm mid-swing and threw me using my own momentum. I crashed down hard. A grunt tore from my throat, air gone again. I rolled, struggling up, desperate now. I was desperate. The word echoed in my skull, alien and humiliating. Our Krogan commander was clawing for any solid hit, anything to regain ground. You should have just walked away, I growled, trying to psych him out. He circled silently. No response. Just that same, unsettling calm. I tried again, rushing in. A headbutt this time. I figured if I could just connect, I could turn the tide. He dodged, not even a full movement, just tilted aside, guiding me past with a hand on my back. I felt the insult of that gesture more than any blow. And then he struck again, an uppercut under my jaw, quick and precise, snapping my head back. I staggered. He didn't stop. A pivot. A low sweep. I dropped to one knee. His boot swung in a clean, merciless arc, slamming straight into my face with a crack that echoed, and for the first time since I was a hatchling, I blacked out. The last thing I remember before darkness took me was his voice, calm, steady, and focused, not gloating, not mocking, just calling for emergency medical support for me. When I woke up, I was here, and everything hurt. But not in the way I expected. Not like a broken body. It was my pride. My assumptions, my arrogance. I, a Krogan of rank, strength, and years, had demanded a challenge from a human, and he gave it to me. And he won. Not with brute force, not even with rage. He won with precision, with control, with discipline. He fought like he knew every outcome, like he had to be better, not just to win, but to prove something. I've fought Turians, fought my own, fought beasts on blood-soaked planets, but never, not once, had I felt so seen, so reed, so beaten. That's why I gave him the right. Not because he defeated me, not because he humiliated me, but because he honored the fight. He didn't revel, he didn't mock, he stood over me with respect and walked away with dignity. That is what the right is meant to be. And in over a few centuries, no one outside my kind had earned it, until now. The room was silent. It wasn't about sound, it was weight. Heavy, pressing down on the chest, making every breath feel deliberate. Even the rhythmic beeping of the monitors seemed to dim beneath the gravity of what had just been said. The Krogan, his body still scuffed, his muscles still bandaged, sat upright on the edge of his bed. His massive hands rested on his knees, claws twitching faintly, not from pain, from memory. Across from him stood the two doctors, the Teal'ran and the Zorvian. He didn't know their names and didn't need to. They had listened, and that was enough. For a long while, neither said a word. Finally, the Krogan spoke, his voice almost a growl. You see, I believed humans hide behind their weapons, their technology and their tools, but the thing is they don't hide behind weapons. He looked them both in the eye. They are the weapons. The two doctors stared at him, their mouths slightly open in disbelief. They had heard the rumors, of course, but this was something else entirely. The Zorvian blinked slowly, his mind working hard to reshape centuries of assumptions. But, that right, that's not just tradition. It's sacred, reserved for your greatest foes or greatest brothers-in-arms. The Krogan grunted. Exactly. It's about time the galaxy woke up. Before the silence could stretch further. I'll have to report it, the Krogan said, more to himself than the doctors. You don't give the right and keep it quiet. That's not how it works. Besides, something like this, it'll spread on its own. Word of mouth travels fast, especially when it's about something that hasn't happened in centuries. A silence fell, this one different. Not heavy, but electrified, alive with 1,000 thoughts, with awe and unease, and the beginning of something profound. The Zorvian finally broke it, his tone still hushed. But that would mean... The Krogan cut him off with a low, humorless chuckle. It would mean that I'll be mocked for getting knocked out by a human. He glanced out the window now. The human was long gone. Just the memory and a story that would soon become legend remained. He'll never brag about it, the Krogan muttered. Not his style. That's how I know he was worthy. Yes, I'll be mocked by many, he admitted. There's no doubt about that. Laughed at for losing, for giving something sacred to an outsider. The Teal'ran's spine shifted uneasily. And what will the rest of the Krogan think? His eyes lifted now, steady and hard. They will understand, the ones who truly carry the bloodline of warriors, the ones who were raised like I was, on stories of honor and strength and the meaning behind the right. Not just the combat, but the choice. He leaned forward slightly, voice firmer. We are taught from birth what it means to give the right. It's not a ceremony, not a ritual. It's not about pride or politics. It's the highest mark of respect one warrior can give another. To offer the right is to say, I see you, I recognize you, I will not forget you. His claws flexed once over his knees. No Krogan gives the right lightly. We can't. It's in our bones, in our blood. We know what it means, every single one of us. And that's why when I send the report there will be silence first. And then arguments, disbelief, rage. But some will nod, and those are the ones that matter. He looked up at the two watching him. The Teal'ran swallowed, clearly shaken. And your people will accept that? The Krogan's expression didn't shift. They'll have to. The warrior's gaze turned thoughtful, because they know what it takes to face a Krogan and walk away. And survive. And earn our respect, the Krogan corrected. The Zorvian slowly sat in the nearby chair, eyes distant. To think, a species barely a blip ago in the galactic timeline, and now even the Krogan bow to their warriors. We don't bow, the Krogan said sharply. We recognize. There's a difference. The Teal'ran shook his head in disbelief, as though waking from a trance. He blinked, the memory of their earlier interaction surfacing, how the human had casually mentioned I beat him. He turned back toward the Krogan, voice quiet with a mix of awe and curiosity. What was he like? The human, I mean. The Krogan's jaw tightened. He looked away, remembering that steady gaze, that calm strength, that final one-liner. He was quiet, dangerous, not because of how hard he hit, but because of how long he waited not to. He chuckled again, deep in his chest. He could have walked away, probably wanted to, but I pushed him. I saw weakness. He showed me something else. What? The Zorvian asked. The Krogan turned back to them, expression unreadable. Control. The word hung in the air like a verdict. The Talran and Zorvian exchanged a look, something unspoken and uncertain passing between them. They had always thought of humans as volatile, emotional, impulsive. But this one? He had been a storm held behind glass, a blade unsheathed only when forced. And when he struck, it was not for glory, it was for honor.